Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We've explored the digital eavesdropping of Operation Ladder and the shadow tracking of Wide Receiver. But today we step back into the Cold War, to a time when the agency faced a problem that physics itself seemed determined to stop. To build the A-12, the precursor to the legendary SR-71, Lockheed's Skunk Works had to conquer heat. At 3 times the speed of sound, aluminum melts. Steel is too heavy. The only answer was titanium. But there was a catch. The United States didn't have any. The world's largest supply sat deep within the borders of our greatest rival. This was the A-12 titanium crisis, a heist of raw ore played out across global markets, proving that sometimes your enemy is your only supplier. If you want to build a shield against the Kremlin, you might just have to buy the iron from their own backyard. In the early 1960s, the agency established a complex web of front companies across the globe to purchase rutile ore, the source of titanium from the Soviet Union. A quote from Ben Rich, former head of Lockheed Skunk Works. Our supplier, the Soviet Union, was the only place we could get the titanium we needed. They never realized they were helping us build a plane that would be flying over their heads for the next 20 years. End quote. The agency used third-party buyers in countries like the United Kingdom and West Germany to mask the final destination of the metal, often claiming it was for commercial manufacturing of cookware or medical tools. Lockheed rejected 80% of the initial titanium shipments because the metal was so pure it was difficult to mill, leading to the development of new cold-forming techniques. A quote from Clarence Kelly Johnson, chief designer. We were inventing a new metallurgy on the fly. We had to wash every single bolt in distilled water because even the chlorine in tap water could cause the titanium to crack under heat. End quote. The declassified archives reveal that one of the primary front companies, Titanium Metals Corp., was actually staffed by agency officers and Langley, who managed the international wire transfers. Operational breakthroughs included the drill bit revolution, where the agency funded the creation of specialized diamond-tipped tools that could penetrate the Soviet metal without shattering. The declassified release highlights Project Oxcart, the secret name for the A-12 development, which cost over $90 million in 1960s currency, much of it paid to Soviet miners. The agency utilized phantom freighters, ships that changed their names and flags in the middle of the ocean to prevent Soviet intelligence from tracking the ore back to California. Declassified records confirm that the CIA intentionally flooded the market with rumors of a new titanium kitchenware craze to explain the sudden surge in global demand. A quote from a declassified 1964 internal memo. The irony of our procurement strategy is not lost on the Directorate. We are literally forging the sword of liberty in the fires of our adversary. End quote. End quote. The A-12 was designed to have a radar cross-section that was remarkably small for its time, thanks to the unique properties of the high-grade Soviet ore. The declassified logs show that the agency had a plan B to mine titanium from the ocean floor if the Soviet supply line was cut. Lockheed workers had to wear white gloves and use special non-reactive tools to ensure that skin oils didn't contaminate the metal during assembly. The declassified release details Operation Sponge, a subtask where agents stole refined titanium ingots directly from a Soviet rail yard. Agency linguists were placed in European metal exchanges to listen for news of any Soviet audits that might expose the shell companies. The declassified archives confirmed that the A-12's fuel, JP-7, was specifically engineered not to explode at high temperatures, but it required the titanium hull to act as a heat sink. A quote from CIA pilot Ken Collins: "When you're sitting in that cockpit at 80,000 feet, you don't think about where the metal came from. You just hope the guys at Skunk Works got the recipe right." End quote. The declassified release highlights the waste audit, where every scrap of titanium shavings from the Lockheed floor was collected and melted down to prevent a shortage. The agency utilized a paper shield, creating thousands of fake invoices for a fictitious supersonic passenger jet to justify the metal purchases. The declassified records indicate that by 1967, the A-12 was flying reconnaissance missions over North Vietnam using the very metal the North's allies had provided. The operation successfully acquired over 500 tons of titanium before the Soviets realized their commercial exports were disappearing into the U.S. defense budget. The declassified files reveal that Front Company Alpha was run by a former KGB defector who knew exactly how to grease the wheels of Soviet bureaucracy. The agency developed a metallurgical fingerprint database to ensure they weren't buying low-quality scrap metal disguised as high-grade ore. The declassified release confirms that the A-12 was the first aircraft to use corrugated skin to allow the titanium to expand and contract as it heated up during flight. To bypass Soviet export controls, the agency utilized the third door strategy, routing metal through neutral Swiss watchmaking suppliers who claimed the titanium was intended for high-end timepiece casings. By 1968, the Skunk Works facility was using more titanium per month than the rest of the American aerospace industry combined, all sourced from the very nation they were built to overfly. A quote from a 1963 declassified project log: "The logistical chain for Oxcart is now so complex that a single audit by an inquisitive customs agent in Helsinki could ground the entire fleet before a single pilot earns his wings." End quote. The declassification shows that the agency funded a secret smelter study at a university in Washington to learn how to hide the unique radiation signature of Soviet refined ore. During the height of the crisis, the price of titanium on the London Metal Exchange rose by 400%, a spike the agency mitigated by leaking fake news about a massive titanium discovery in the Australian outback. But while the history books celebrate the engineering, the declassified files suggest a much darker story buried in the black ink. The annex titled Element Zero is completely redacted. What was in that Soviet ore? Get ready for the theory of the poison ore. Speculation suggests the Soviets knew exactly who was buying the metal and sold the agency a specific batch laced with a tracking isotope. The rumor is that the redacted radioactive logs prove the A-12 left a glowing trail across the sky that only Soviet sensors could see, making our stealth jet a visible target for their missiles. What if the metal was alive? A dark rumor suggests the titanium was actually a memory metal developed in a secret lab in Siberia, the theory holds that the metal sent low-frequency data back to Moscow every time the plane reached Mach 3, acting as a giant vibrating antenna that transmitted our flight paths directly to the Kremlin. The redactions hide the crystalline feedback reports. Did we get it from the stars? Some believe the redactions hide Project Meteor, claiming the Soviet ore was actually recovered from a crash site, and the black ink hides the extraterrestrial signature analysis. The brittle bone theory claims the redactions prove the Soviets engineered the titanium to shatter after exactly 500 hours of flight, and the black bars hide the crash probability charts that kept pilots grounded. Is the metal thinking? Gossip suggests the redacted pages detail Project Brain Box, where the titanium hole was used to conduct telepathic signals to the pilot, and the black ink hides the mental breakdown statistics. The Gulag Gold theory posits that the redactions hide the fact that the agency knowingly used metal mined by political prisoners, and the black bars mask the human cost spreadsheets. Was the plane a ghost? Some believe the redactions describe Operation Hollow, where the titanium was actually a lead-based alloy that used gravity distortion to stay in the air, with the black ink covering the antimatter formulas. The rebirth theory claims the redactions prove the A-12 metal was recycled from a crashed U-2 spy plane, and the black bars hide the evidence disposal logs. Is the sound a weapon? Gossip suggests the redactions hide Project Thunder, where the titanium hole was shaped to create a sonic boom that could collapse buildings on the ground, and the black ink mask the target destruction data. Some whisper that the redactions hide the location of a secret titanium vault in Langley, where the agency has stored enough Soviet ore to build a fleet of starships, and the black ink is all that keeps the public from demanding their share. A wild theory suggests the blacked out pages detail Operation Doppelganger, where the agency traded stolen A-12 blueprints for the titanium, and the black ink hides the proof that the Soviets built their own secret Mach 3 fleet using our stolen plans. Rumors in the dark forums suggest the titanium wasn't bought at all, but was part of a trade-in for something the agency found in the Nevada desert, with the black bars hiding the alien technology exchange manifest. The frequency ghost rumor claims the titanium hole was designed to resonate at a pitch that makes human beings in the flight path temporarily forget the last 10 minutes of their lives, and the black ink covers the memory wipe test results. Did the metal come to life? Some believe the redactions hide Project Regenerate, where the titanium was treated with a biological agent that allowed it to heal its own cracks in mid-air, with the black bars masking the living aircraft logs. And lastly, the shadow metal theory posits that the titanium was actually a cold fusion reactor itself, powering the plane indefinitely, and the black ink hides the infinite range capability. Was the A-12 titanium crisis a success? Tactically, it was a miracle. The agency successfully built a machine that could outrun any missile in the world using material provided by their enemy. They broke the thermal barrier and redefined the limits of aviation. Strategically, it was a master stroke of espionage. The declassified files show that the agency didn't just buy metal. They proved they could manipulate the Soviet economy from the inside out. They turned the USSR into an unwitting partner in their own surveillance. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the Iron Alchemist produced breakthroughs that still underpin modern aerospace. Global Shell Company Networks, the blueprint for how the agency moves money and material through hostile territory. Titanium metallurgy, the discovery of how to weld and shape the world's most difficult metal. Stealth logistics, learning how to hide the manufacturing of a giant aircraft from both public and foreign eyes. And thermal management, the invention of heat-resistant fuels and lubricants that allow engines to run at temperatures that would vaporize regular oil. The A-12 titanium crisis shows us that in the world of high-stakes intelligence, the line between friend and foe is often drawn in the sand of the marketplace. As the declassified files reveal, the Iron Alchemist was a gambit that proved the agency could find the light, even if they had to buy the candles from the dark. Join us next time as we examine civil transport, or CAT. Before there was Air America, there was CAT. We'll uncover how the agency bought a struggling Chinese airline to fight a secret war against communism. We'll look at the jungle jumpers and opium orbits, and the moment a commercial fleet became the world's most dangerous air force. Join us next time for the Dragon's Wings. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.